Welcome to the One Girl Revolution podcast. It's your girl, Kate Bryan. It has been a hot second since we had a new episode of the podcast, but there are so many reasons behind that, so many exciting things to share with all of you. So I thought this week, instead of having a guest, I would hop on here to share a little bit about all the great things that are happening. But before we get into that, One Girl Revolution is a multimedia platform, a podcast, and a nonprofit dedicated to highlighting the stories of inspiring women and girls who are changing the world through their lives. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the One Girl Revolution podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at One Girl Revo. Please share our posts. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel at One Girl Revolution, and you can find all of our social media links, podcast episodes, videos, documentaries, and so much more on our website at onegirlrevolution.com. That's the number one, girlrevolution.com. Okay, now, where to begin? There has been so much going on over the past couple of weeks, months, really over the past couple of years since I started One Girl Revolution, but the past couple of weeks have been probably the most crazy, busiest weeks I've ever had. And One Girl Revolution is a huge part of that, actually the majority of it. There's been so many great things going on. I'm sure if you follow us on social media, you've seen all the great things that we've had going on. And I want to talk about those a little bit. But before we get into that, I don't often talk about personal things on this podcast, but I wanted to share some really exciting personal news with all of you. In the middle of May, I got married. I am so happy and so excited. My husband, Joe, is amazing, an amazing man, so supportive of everything that I do, everything that I stand for, and super supportive of everything with regards to One Girl Revolution. And we got married. And so my life took on it was like a wild and crazy chapter. I don't even know what it took on. It took on a life of its own where I was planning a wedding in the midst of all these great things going on with One Girl Revolution, which I'll share. But it was such a gift, and we had so many family and friends that flew into Detroit. It was an amazing opportunity to show off our city, a city that we love so much. As you know, if you listen to this podcast, you know that Detroit really is the heart of One Girl Revolution, and the motto of Detroit, there's always hope. It will rise from the ashes, really is the embodiment of One Girl Revolution, the embodiment of all the stories that we share. So it was such a gift to have so many people come to the city of Detroit, be able to show off our city. We got married at the cathedral in the city of Detroit, which was such a gift and so beautiful. And so if you follow us on social media, you definitely saw some beautiful pictures, and I'm so grateful for everyone who supported us and stood with us. And we ended up going on a honeymoon to Costa Rica, which was amazing. And I encourage everybody to take a break. I decided kind of in the midst of the wedding week that I was going to take a break from the podcast and from everything with regards to One Girl. We still had a lot of posts going up on social media because I set all that up before we left. But I had every intention of just continuing the podcast every week, having a podcast set up to go out and, stressing over trying to get everything edited and everything done. But then finally had this moment where during the wedding week where I just realized that I couldn't do it all. And I wanted to share that because I think we all have moments in our lives like that where we're balancing so many different things, and life can just get so crazy busy. And sometimes we just have to take a moment and stop and take a break. And going to Costa Rica was the best thing that I ever could have done, going on a honeymoon with my husband, who I love and adore. It was just such a gift to spend that time together and not worry about everything going on with the podcast and everything going on professionally and in my life, and really just taking a break. And I think the moment that I realized that I needed to just take a break was I started thinking about when was the last time that I took a vacation. Not a vacation where I took my laptop and kind of kept up with social media or kept up with the podcast or interviewed people, but when was the last time that I actually took a vacation and unplugged? And I couldn't tell you when the last time that happened was. It had to have been years, honestly. Thinking back, I'm like, I can't remember. And obviously we had COVID thrown in there, and there were different things that happened where, we couldn't go off on vacations necessarily, but I couldn't remember the last time that I just stopped and I was present to my being, myself, my life, now my husband, now my new life as a married woman. And I just realized that I needed to just unplug and be okay with that, and be okay with not having podcast episodes come out every week that I was gone, and not pretending that I can do everything. Sometimes we need to just take a break and take a step back and say, you know what, for my own mental health, for my own mental wellness and well-being and health, however you want to say it, sometimes we just have to take a step away and unplug. And I didn't have service on my phone, which was the best possible thing. I checked social media a little bit, sometimes when we were just like hanging out, and that it's kind of nice to have some normalcy in that way, and just be able to like scroll through and look at Instagram and look at other people's pictures. And obviously it was fun to look through some of the pictures that people posted of the wedding. But the best thing that I did was unplug. And so I share that mainly because I want to encourage every single person who is listening, make sure that you take those breaks. You know, if you have children or you have a family or you just have a busy life, a busy career, make sure that you take moments to just step away, whether it's just an overnight somewhere, you know, use up your points from your credit card to book a hotel somewhere, and just go and be present with your life, and unplug from your phone, unplug from your laptop, and just soak up life, because life goes too fast. There's so much going on in our daily lives that sometimes you feel like you blink and you missed a whole chapter of your life because you didn't take those moments to just sit and be present and breathe and enjoy nature and go for a walk, go for a hike, and not be stressed about what calendar invite you might have missed or being late for some meeting. It just was so refreshing and so nice. And I just encourage everybody who's listening to take a break, whatever that looks like. Treat yourself, whether it's getting a bunch of girlfriends together and going overnight somewhere, or going on a weekend somewhere, or, you know, going with your person somewhere. I mean, just do anything, and it doesn't have to cost a lot of money. I will tell you that Joe and I booked pretty much everything on points. So everything was overall pretty free. And so there are ways to do it. And so I just encourage all of you, however that looks for you, whatever is relaxing to you, whatever is a reprieve for you, take those moments in life, and don't be afraid to drop some balls, or, you know, to hit pause. And that's really what I did with the podcast. So I'm so grateful for all of you who listened to old episodes while I was gone, for all of you who shared our social media posts. You kept One Girl Revolution going, and I'm so grateful for you. And now I'm so excited to come back. I feel so refreshed and ready to roll. And we have a bunch of podcast episodes already in our Rolodex, already ready to go. And I'm just so excited for what is to come. So on the One Girl Revolution front, let's talk about all the great things that happened over the past couple of weeks. So not only did I get married, but also in the midst of that, we had some really huge, massive wins, massive things happen with One Girl Revolution, which on the one hand, timing couldn't have been worse, because I was trying to plan a wedding and keep my head above water. But at the same time, I sort of love in these moments in life when everything kind of collides. And that's truly what happened. I mean, the 2 weeks of the wedding, everything collided. And I felt at times like I was drinking out of a fire hose with the wedding, and then all the one girl stuff, great one girl things that are happening. But it just also opened up so many opportunities for One Girl, and makes me so excited for what is to come. So let's talk about these One Girl Revolution things, these One Girl Revolution successes. So first of all, Scene Magazine in Detroit featured One Girl Revolution. This was a dream come true. Honestly, for the past 3 years, I've tried to get Scene Magazine to pay attention to One Girl, because it made so much sense to me. We're in Detroit. We're highlighting inspiring women in the city of Detroit, but also all over the country. And Scene Magazine is an incredible publication that I've always loved following. I love their lifestyle section and all the events going on and all the different things. And sort of out of nowhere, I got connected to Scene Magazine in April, so about a month before the wedding and everything, and they wanted to feature my story and feature the story of One Girl Revolution, which was absolutely incredible. So we were on the front page of Scene Magazine, and they wrote this beautiful feature about One Girl Revolution, where it came from, you know, why the city of Detroit is so important to it, a bit about my story and why I started One Girl Revolution, and how My background in PR and media really led me to see very clearly that women and girls' stories weren't being told in an authentic way. And there was such an opportunity to highlight these stories through a podcast, through our documentaries, and through like our social media and everything else that we do to really highlight the authentic stories of women and girls that are changing the world through their lives. The story had so many cool photos from our different documentaries, some behind the scenes photos, and really highlighted the One Girl Revolution story in a way that I never could have fathomed. So I'm so beyond grateful to Scene Magazine for highlighting us, for highlighting this amazing platform that all of you have supported through the years. And so I'm grateful to all of you because this wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for you. So they highlighted it. And then on May 20th, they had this awesome event in the city of Detroit where they actually showed our new documentary, which I'll talk about in a little bit, called In Tandem. And so it was a huge hustle because I was like trying to get everything done for Scene Magazine and really support them because they did a whole women's issue, which I thought was very important. And I wanted to make sure that One Girl Revolution supported it in any way that we could. And then also this amazing event, this amazing women's event in Detroit, where they showed the documentary, but also highlighted all of the women or gave all the women who were highlighted an opportunity to speak on a panel and give presentations. And it was just so incredible. So I wish we could have been there, but I'm so grateful that we got to have a little piece of we got to play a little role in the event. And we're just beyond grateful to Scene Magazine. One thing I'll say too about Scene Magazine is that it often can be difficult with One Girl Revolution because we're highlighting stories. A lot of times people see us as a media operation ourselves. So we're highlighting stories. A lot of times the media doesn't really know where or how to highlight the work that we're doing because ultimately we're kind of doing the same work in some ways. So it was such a gift to have Scene Magazine really dig into the work that we're doing, dig into the mission of One Girl Revolution and highlight all of our stories. They interviewed some of the women that we've had on the podcast and highlighted the documentaries and, asked people about the impact of One Girl Revolution. And that was so powerful and beautiful to me because we don't often hear, the fruits of the work that we're doing. And I definitely don't always hear that from One Girl Revolution. So it was really cool to read this amazing article to not only highlight our story, but also to share and show the impact of One Girl Revolution and the impact of what we're doing. And so it really kind of fueled my fire to continue doing this work, continue looking for these stories and finding new ways, more ways to highlight these amazing women and girls. I also want to say too, with Scene Magazine, the women that they highlighted in their May issue are all absolutely incredible. So it was such a gift to get to know these women and get to know their stories. And so if you're listening to this, I encourage you to follow Scene Magazine. You can find them on Instagram and Facebook, and you can subscribe to their newsletter, which is always awesome. And you can subscribe to their magazine and actually get a copy of it every month. And I've loved following everything that they're doing. And I know they have a lot of big things planned. So make sure that you're following Scene Magazine and support all the other women that they've highlighted. Look for other stories that they're highlighting that need to be supported, and please share them on social media. That's how all of these things continue to grow and continue to work. That's how One Girl Revolution has continued to grow and work, is because people have shared the work that we're doing. They've shared the stories, they've shared the podcast episodes, the documentaries, and it really is the power of social media is so pivotal and crucial, and we all need to utilize it more, I think, at times where we can really, with no money, with barely any time, we can easily share something, and that can really amplify the voices of people that are so often marginalized and forgotten. Donate to One Girl Revolution's nonprofit organization to help us continue our work, highlighting inspiring women and girls that are changing the world through their lives, promoting their work and their organizations, and building a powerful and positive force out in the world dedicated to empowering women, their voices, and their stories. Donate at onegirlrevolution.com/donate. That's the number onegirlrevolution.com/donate. One of the biggest things that happened over the past month, I mean, there's a lot of big things actually. If you're talking about a wedding, Scene Magazine feature, there's so many big things that happened. But another big thing that happened is we hit 150 episodes of the podcast. 150 episodes. When I started this podcast, I thought, maybe if I could do 10 episodes. The majority of podcasts do 7 episodes. People realize how much work it is, how time consuming it is, just the organization that you have to have behind it, organizing guests and figuring out how to interview them and then recording them and then editing, like all the different pieces that go into it. It can be so time consuming and it's a lot of work. So the majority of podcasts do 7 episodes and then people kind of fall off the wagon and they stop doing the podcast. Some people will come back to it, or some people it kind of becomes a hobby. Whenever they have time, they do it. But the majority of podcasts only do 7 episodes. So when I started One Girl Revolution, I thought, if I can get to 10 episodes, that's 10 stories that maybe haven't been heard before or haven't been told in this way through this medium of podcasting. And if I could get to 10 episodes, that's a huge success. So looking at the 150 and saying, oh my gosh, I have 150 episodes of the podcast blows my mind. So many different stories, so many different backgrounds. I love looking through the podcast page and just seeing all the different faces, all the different women, all the different background, knowing like where they come from all across the country. As you know, we focus on American women because I feel like we don't hear enough about our neighbors, about women in our own communities, women in our own country that are making a difference. And we need to hear those stories because those women are us and we can be like them and we should aspire to be like these amazing women. And I know everybody who's listening, each and every one of you are One Girl Revolutions and you have so much to offer. And I know that you're doing so much to make the world a better place. But my mission, my goal has really been to highlight the stories of everyday women living in our own communities that are making a difference. So it's really tangible to us, that it's really attainable, that we can all do that, even in the small things. And that's what I love about the podcast is sometimes the women that we highlight, they founded an organization or they did something really big. Other times it's a woman or a girl who just started some little project. Ruby Kate Chitsey comes to mind, this girl from Arkansas who started 3 Wishes for Ruby's Residence. And she never sought to start an organization. She actually just was a kid and she started granting wishes to elderly people in senior living facilities. And that's continued to grow. And now they're national. And she has all kinds of young people, all kinds of kids across the country that are helping her mission and granting wishes to seniors. Or little Lily Hackey, who makes coloring books for children in hospitals. She was like 5 years old when she started making coloring books for children in hospitals, never even founded an organization. She just started doing. So all of us can do that. We don't necessarily have to found an organization. We don't necessarily have to have a big dream, but sometimes it's the small things. Sometimes it's, babysitting for someone in your community, in your neighborhood that is struggling or having a hard time, or dropping off a meal for an elderly person, or a card or flowers or anything, an elderly person in your community who might not have anyone to run an errand for them, or might not have anyone, they might not see anyone on even a weekly basis, not even on a daily basis. Like the only person they might see is the mailman. So like, what can you do? What can we do, each and every one of us, to make a difference in the world? And so that's what I love so much about these stories is you don't necessarily have to start an organization or do something on a really big scale. You don't even have to have money. That's what I love so much is like the majority of women that we're talking to on this podcast, they have nothing, but they've figured out some way that they can make a difference, and they're making a difference every single day. They continue to put one foot in front of the other. Most of them are similar to me with One Girl Revolution. They started with a little heart dream, a little heart project. Didn't really know what the future would hold. They had maybe big dreams and aspirations for it, but didn't even know how to get there. And they literally put one foot in front of the other, and it's just continued to grow and evolve. And that's so many of these women and their missions and their organizations and their projects, or whatever you want to call it, whatever they're doing. And so 150 episodes is so inspiring. I encourage you to go back. If you haven't listened to all 150, go back and listen to some of the episodes that you haven't, or maybe go back and revisit an episode that was particularly inspiring to you, or go to our podcast page on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and just download a couple of episodes randomly and listen to these women and listen to their stories, and please share them, because these women deserve to be heard. Their stories deserve to be told. And it is such an honor to have One Girl Revolution highlighting these stories and telling these stories. And my hope is that this platform continues to grow and evolve, and where one story leads to another. And, us sharing, you and I and everybody who's listening, us sharing a couple of stories that can amplify the message. But the real message is that we all, each and every one of us, have the power to change the world through our lives. And sometimes it's in the big ways, but the majority of times it's in the small ways. And we can change someone's life. We can change our community. We can change the world for the better just by doing the little things. So thank you so much for listening to the podcast. You've continued to keep this going, and I am so excited for what is to come. But 150 episodes is something to celebrate, and I am celebrating that. Now, the big news, the biggest news, which I don't even know if it's the biggest news because I shared a lot of big news on this podcast, but the biggest news is we have a second documentary, a new documentary that just came out called In Tandem. So many of you, most of you have watched The Girl Inside, which we released a year and a half ago. I was going to say a couple of years ago. We were working on it for a couple of years, but we released it last year and a year and a half ago. And we released it in 2020. 2020 is a blur for everyone. So we released it in September 2020, and The Girl Inside featured the story of Dr. Biaggi, who taught a storytelling class to incarcerated women at Cook County Jail. Absolutely incredible. It still blows my mind that we were able to take a film crew into Cook County Jail and interview these women, not about what they did, not about why they're in Cook County Jail, but about who they are as people, who they are as individuals, what were their hopes and dreams when they were little girls, who is the little girl inside, who are they created to be, and that has just amplified so many other people's stories and opened up so many other people's eyes to the incarcerated population. Women are the fastest growing population in jail and prison. A lot of people didn't know that. I didn't even know that when we first started this project. So it was really incredible to kind of dig into that. We did a whole podcast series about incarceration and incarcerated women specifically. And anyways, we did this documentary, The Girl Inside. If you haven't watched it, I encourage you to go to our YouTube channel and watch it. It's only 10 minutes. It will inspire you. It'll blow you away. I still watch it regularly, and every single time I watch it, Dr. Biaggi told me this the other day. She does the same thing, and she was like, every time I watch it, I learn something new, or it challenges me to think about something about myself in a new way. And that's what I see. I think that The Girl Inside is such a powerful piece, not just because we did it, just because it's a One Girl Revolution production, but it is a very powerful piece in the world, in the culture, and I hope everybody gets to watch it. So please share it. It was nominated for an Emmy, which is awesome. So we have big hopes and dreams for In Tandem. So in the midst of everything else going on, we released In Tandem in May, and it is the powerful, inspiring story of Caitlin Cullen, a chef and restaurateur who opened up a restaurant called The Tandem in Lindsay Heights, Milwaukee. And she started hiring people that no one else would hire. Anybody that just needed a job in the neighborhood, she would hire them. Pregnant women, people coming out of jail and prison, kids being targeted by drug dealers, whatever their story was, whatever their background was, she didn't care. They wanted a job. They needed a job. She would give them an opportunity. Lindsay Heights has an over 50% unemployment rate. So there are a lot of people in need in that community. And so Caitlin, what she created through The Tandem is actually just absolutely incredible. So she was one of the first stories, actually. She was actually the first story that I reached out to do a documentary on, because I thought what she was doing was so innovative. Her restaurant was this really awesome fried chicken restaurant. I mean, they made a lot of different stuff, but they were known for their fried chicken and cocktails and all this stuff. It was like really cool hangout spot in Milwaukee. People would travel from all over to come to her restaurant. So right when I started One Girl Revolution, right around the time that I started the podcast, I had a dear friend who owns a production company called Behold in Chicago. And he said, I love what you're doing. If you ever come across a story that you feel like needs to be told on film, not just on the podcast, let me know. And if we can figure out a way to make it a cool collaboration, we'll do it. We'll film it for you. So Caitlin's story was actually the first one that I reached out about. We did The Girl Inside, but that was kind of later on. So we started with Caitlin, and a couple of months after I started One Girl Revolution, we took a film crew to The Tandem in Milwaukee, filmed all about the restaurant, and everything was like so great and inspiring, and we loved hanging out there. Such a cool group of people. The Tandem isn't just a restaurant, it truly is a family. Everybody that worked there, everybody that came there, I mean, it just was, they built a family. It almost felt like Cheers a little bit, like everybody knows your name. So that was March 2019. And we filmed this, what we thought was this great documentary. A couple months later, we go to Cook County Jail, film that. So our plan was to release, I think, Caitlin's documentary first, The Tandem. And or now it's In Tandem, but release the documentary about the Tandem. And then COVID hit. We had to go back. We were planning actually in March 2020 to go back and film a little bit of B-roll. So just a little bit of video around the restaurant just to kind of fill in any gaps for the documentary. And then COVID hit. So we were shut down and they were shut down. And so we ended up kind of going back to the drawing board and figuring out how we could do The Girl Inside and get that one out first. So we got that out in September 2020. But then in the midst of COVID, Caitlin's story, the Tandem story, got even more interesting. So they shut down like all restaurants in March 2020. But Caitlin and her team, her amazing team in the Tandem, they decided that they were going to stop selling food. They were going to stop selling food to customers, paying customers, and they were going to solely feed people in need. Obviously, this community, like I said before, had a 50% unemployment rate. I can only imagine what that was like during the pandemic and people being stuck at home and not having food to put on the table for them and their children. So Caitlin took all the food that she had in her refrigerators at the restaurant and she made something like 80 meals, posted it on Facebook. If you need a meal, no questions asked, just show up at the restaurant and we'll give it to you. Those meals were obviously gone in 2 seconds. And she realized that there was a massive need. She knew that there was a need, but I think when 80 meals are gone in literally 2 seconds, there's a massive need, and people were in need during the pandemic, which we all know and many of us experienced in different ways. So people started hearing about what Caitlin was doing and what the Tandem was doing, and people started donating money online to keep them going. Other restaurants in Milwaukee heard what she was doing and they were like, well, I can make a few meals and drop them off and deliver them. And then it just continued to grow. And then Jose Andres's World Central Kitchen found out about it, supported them, and that really lit the whole thing on fire, which you'll see in the documentary In Tandem. Opened up so many opportunities for them. They were able to make more and more meals. Then the city of Milwaukee heard about it and gave them a $350,000 grant because the Tandem was doing a better job than the city of Milwaukee, I would say, feeding their people. So they were like, hey, you got a plan. Let's roll with it. And then on top of that, Caitlin was hiring other restaurants. She started paying other restaurants to make meals, keeping restaurants that were struggling afloat. She started hiring other people that worked in restaurants that had lost their jobs or their hours had been cut back to make meals. So she's hiring people that were struggling. Then she ends up realizing that a lot of Uber drivers weren't driving during the pandemic. And so she started hiring them to drive and deliver meals. What they ended up creating is so mind-blowing and inspiring, feeding over 115,000 people, 115,000 people during the pandemic is insane. It's so inspiring. And this is a story that it was told in different ways. City of Milwaukee, different newspapers or, people would do videos on Caitlin, but I never felt like her story was truly captured. Her person, who she is as an individual. She's such a cool woman and so inspiring just as a person. I felt like her story was never really captured. And I felt like the Tandem aspects of the story was captured, but never really fully captured. And so one of the greatest gifts about One Girl Revolution is we filmed in March 2019 when the Tandem was at its height. You see in the documentary, this bustling restaurant, people sitting at the bar, having cocktails, celebrating, hanging out, getting to know each other, working, whatever. And then fast forward, we went back and in the midst of the pandemic, when they were feeding people in need and had this incredible setup where, they had people coming to pick up meals and delivering them and people showing up at the restaurant to pick up free meals and this whole free meals program, we were able to take a film crew back and film that. And so what you get in Tandem is a more powerful, inspiring documentary than I ever could have fathomed, where it tells both sides of the story. It tells you both sides of the tandem story, the tandem at its height, but then in the midst of the COVID pandemic, that she meaning Caitlin, but also the tandem as a family, as a whole, switched gears and started feeding people in need and ended up feeding 115,000 people. So I want to encourage you, please watch In Tandem. You can watch it on our YouTube channel. You can also find The Girl Inside if you haven't seen that yet. And please, please, please watch and share this documentary. It's so powerful. It's only around 7 minutes. So it's really easy to watch and easy to share on social media. But please watch In Tandem. Let's continue to share this story, to inspire others, to support what Caitlin and the Tandem family have done. It's so incredible. And Caitlin's moved on from the Tandem, and there's some other things going on, moving parts that you'll see in the documentary, but I want to continue to support them in any way that we possibly can. So please watch In Tandem. You also can listen to Caitlin's episode of the podcast, which goes into even more detail of her story and the Tandem story. That's episode 150. So the 150th episode features Caitlin Cullen. So check it out. Watch In Tandem, the new short documentary by One Girl Revolution, which highlights the incredible story of Caitlin Cullen and her restaurant in Milwaukee, The Tandem. The Tandem is more than a restaurant. It's a family, a community that at its height was a bustling restaurant serving food and supporting every single person who walked through its doors in one way or another. If someone needed a job, you got it. Having a bad day and needing a smile or a laugh, The Tandem's got you. Having a rough time and need support, The Tandem isn't just a restaurant, it's your family. They got you. When COVID hit in March 2020, The Tandem stepped up to serve the community in a new way. They stopped selling food to customers and started solely feeding people in need. The Tandem community ended up feeding over 115,000 people during the first year of the pandemic. Absolutely incredible. Get to know Caitlin and the Tandem story in One Girl Revolution's new short documentary, In Tandem. Watch In Tandem today at onegirlrevolution.com or on YouTube. Please watch and share this inspiring story. Where do we go from here? There is so much going on, obviously, with One Girl and One Girl Revolution and the podcast, Scene Magazine, the new documentary, the older documentary, 150 podcast episodes. There's so much going on just in the past couple of weeks. And I feel like I'm still kind of processing everything that happened, including my own personal getting married. And there's so much going on, but I will say that there is so much more to come. We have a lot of things that we're working on, new podcast episodes. We're doing a lot of stuff within Tandem and trying to get it out there. So hoping to do some online events, some in-person events, hopefully. So we'll keep you posted on all of that. But we really want to continue to amplify all of these stories. Scene Magazine, if you want to read the article, we have it posted on our Instagram, also on our website, so you can find it anywhere. And I just encourage you to read the article, share the article, because it really encapsulates the work that we're doing and the work that we've done over the past couple of years and kind of where we go from here. If you haven't already subscribed to our podcast, the One Girl Revolution podcast, please subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Please download the episodes. That helps us so much. Every single episode that you listen to, every single episode that you download, that helps us so much. So it's an easy, free way to support the work that we're doing. We have 150 episodes, so go back and listen to some older episodes, and also keep your eyes out for new episodes because this is just the beginning. So every week from now on, we will have a new episode coming out. I know that we took a little break, a wee break, as they say in Ireland, but we are back in action, and I'm so excited to share the episodes that we already have recorded with you because it's some really inspiring it's just really inspiring stuff. And so I can't wait for you to listen. And some really interesting, I'll say there's some really interesting new stories that I didn't even know about. So I'm just going to say that. I'm just a little teaser that there are some great things coming. So please subscribe to the podcast. Please share the podcast with your friends and family. So please, encourage other people to subscribe, to listen to these stories and listen to these episodes. If you know of episodes or you know of stories that we should be highlighting, women or girls that are making a difference in the world, making a difference in their community, making a difference through their business, like Caitlin, like I love what she's doing. She's created this social project, which is so inspiring. If you know people like that, send us their information. Send us a little bit about their story. You can send us via social media, so on Facebook or on Instagram, or you can email us at info@onegirlrevolution.com or email us through the website. Let us know if you know of a story that we should be thinking about or highlighting. We're always looking for inspiring stories, so send those our way. If you have a favorite story, share it. If you have a favorite episode of the podcast, share it on social media. You can even go back through our social media and find an episode that you really enjoyed and share it with people, because that's how this has just continued to grow. If you like what we're doing, if you love the podcast or you love a particular episode, leave us a review. Tell us about it. That helps us too. That's a free way that you can make a difference and help support the work that we're doing. So leave us a review and tell us what you like, what you think we're doing well, what episodes you love the most. Share with us. So leave us a review. You can sign up for our email list. You can sign up for our email list on our website, and that way you're getting all of our information, all the news, all the things that are happening. We're also starting to do some email blasts where it has like 5 things. It's 5-day Friday or five things Friday, I think we're calling it. Anyways, there are 5 things that we send out. Not every Friday, but we're trying to do that more. Friday 5, that's what it's called. Friday 5. So sign up for our email list so you can get the Friday 5, and then you can get all the other things, all the other news that we're sending out. We will not bombard your email, I promise, but we try to send out an email every couple episodes so you can get kind of a snap into what we're doing. We're doing a lot of work right now with our nonprofit, One Girl Revolution. So that's ONE, Girl Revolution. We're doing a lot there. So we're really hoping to amplify our nonprofit. So if you want to support us in any way, you can donate to our nonprofit through the website. That helps us continue doing the work that we're doing. We want to do more advocating for the women and causes that we're working with. So that will help us with that. Education, there's a lot to be done. And so anything that anyone gives to the nonprofit goes right back to support everything that we're doing and helps us put out more podcast episodes, more social media, and all the different things that we're doing. And hopefully, fingers crossed, it will help us make more documentaries. So if you love what we're doing, please support us through the nonprofit. You can go to onegirlrevolution.com and there's a donate button, so you can check it out there. Lastly, please, please, please watch and share In Tandem. We are so proud of this documentary. It's been 3 years in the making. It's crazy to think back 3 years ago, right when we started One Girl Revolution, that we started filming In Tandem, and it took us literally 3 years to get this short documentary. It's only 7 minutes, but it's so powerful and so inspiring, and it took on a life of its own and turned into something more than I ever could have fathomed. So I'm so grateful to all of you. Thank you for celebrating with us. Thank you for being patient with us and supporting us even during these past couple of weeks where we've been a little quiet, not radio silent, but we've been a little quiet on social media. If you followed us, you saw posts going up, but the podcast, we needed to take a little break. So I'm so grateful to all of you for continuing to support the work that we're doing. Thank you so much for all of your love and support for me and everything that I have going on in my life. I'm so grateful for this One Girl Revolution family, this sisterhood. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting us. And get ready for some big things coming your way from One Girl Revolution. We love you, and we'll talk to you soon. Please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at One Girl Revo. That's the number 1 Girl REVO. And you can find more information on One Girl Revolution at onegirlrevolution.com. That's the number 1 girlrevolution.com.